Recently, I saw some posts on social media from foreigners that moved to this country here in the UK, and they were complaining. One was saying that there were lots of dogs and that his religion hated dogs and that he doesn't know why he should suffer seeing dogs on the streets. Another one was complaining about food that was not to their taste. The third one was in a supermarket showing ranges of clothes, women's clothes, because it was a lady, and she was saying she can't find the kind of dress she normally would wear in her country of origin. So all these people were complaining. That was what they had in common. And I thought that this didn't start today. So let's look at the Bible. And first of all, you have to notice that in the book of Exodus, after many, many years in Egypt, the Hebrews left. And they left in a hurry. And at the time they left, all the Egyptians had been bereaved because God had killed all the firstborns of Egypt. Only those of his own people had been spared because of the blood of the lamb on their doorpost. So they left, and it's very likely that these people that were their neighbors saw them leaving and thought that these had the secret of survival and that they were not safe anymore in their country since even the firstborn of the Pharaoh had died. So it is written that the number of Israelites that left Ramses for Sukkot was about 600,000 men, without counting the children. Usually at that time women were not mentioned, but it is added in verse 38 that a big crowd of all kinds of people went with them. And those people were not Hebrews. They were not followers of the God of Israel. And so what happened next? Were they happy in the wilderness? I'm sure they didn't plan for it. They thought, oh wow, they are going to a new country, we shall be safe. Instead, they landed in a desert, in a wilderness, and it lasted for quite a time. So at that time, the book of Numbers reports, and I read, the rabble who were among them had greedy desires, and also the sons of Israel wept. And what were they saying? Notice that it's the Egyptians that started complaining first, before the others joined. The question was, who will give us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we used to eat free in Egypt, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our appetite is gone. There's nothing at all to look at except this manna. The manna was a type of coriander food that God had provided. So the rabble, according to the Bible, the rabble that was among the people of God started complaining. They were miserable, and it's like they said, well, yes, we joined you, but we didn't bargain for that. In fact, we are not happy in this situation. We regret having left our country of origin. And that is a challenge. And I just want to let you know that this is going to happen anywhere you are if you didn't plan ahead. If you leave your country of origin to join another one. And in that respect, there is something very important that happened later on in the story of Israel. we see that God repeatedly warned his people, Israel, and he told them, the strangers, the foreigners that live in your midst should be treated the same way. On Shabbat, the day of rest, they are to rest. They should not work. And we know that from time to time, some people tried to, and were carrying loads and trying to make business, and they were warned. And the disobedience was punished by death. We see that repeatedly God told his people, care for the strangers in your midst, because you were strangers. Remember, you were strangers, you were foreigners in Egypt. And that was not for tourist purposes. If you check that the Bible, you see that they lived for 430 years in Egypt. So it's a long time, several generations. And all this while, they were still feeling like strangers, mainly because they never integrated. They were told to keep to their own laws for religious purposes. So now God tells them, care for the strangers in your midst. But what are these strangers expected to do? They are expected to integrate, fully integrate. On Shabbat, they are to do no work. They also expected to worship God at the same time as others. So all the festivals, as far as they are living there together with the Israelites, they are expected to partake of the ceremonies. And they are also told that if they want to partake of the Passover meal, they are expected to go as far as circumcised their own males 8 days after birth. So there was no case of foreigners that were staying in their own corners, continuing speaking their own language and being different. And we see individual cases like Rahab, the prostitute from Jericho, Ruth, the Moabites, and possibly others here and there that integrated. They joined the people, like the Gibeonites that were afraid when the people of God were pushing forward and taking over the country. They were fearing to be massacred, and so they decided to pretend that they were coming from afar and ask for protection. When it was discovered that they had duped the leaders, they were told, well, now that you are here, the only way you can stay is to partake of life here. So they were given jobs to do. They could not just enjoy their stay. They were contributing materially, professionally, language-wise, and there is no case of people that stayed as foreigners. And this is the law. So it goes both ways. There is an exchange that takes place. God said, protect the foreigners, don't maltreat them. But the foreigners on their side are told, you have to integrate. When is festival time, you partake of the festival. When is Shabbat, you rest, you obey the law. And God said also clearly in a place, there is only one law, the same law for the people of the soil and the foreigners. And so this is the model. And you cannot tell people, oh well, yes, you have come to this country, you have another language, you have another law, you have another religion. Go on, continue. This is not biblical, and therefore the Christians should follow the Bible, because that is the way it will work. So meditate on this.